Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this QC Close-Up Lead by Example event. My name is Trish Glass, and I'm Executive Director at Quiet Communities. Today, we are going to revisit Collier County, Florida, where our Quiet Streets Program Chair, Mary Tatigian, has been rallying residents and key community leaders to address noise from loud vehicle mufflers. Some of you may have joined us last year for our first conversation about work in the community with Mary and a police sergeant who's been supporting her efforts. Today, we'll have updates and we'll share steps you can take in your own communities to address this harmful noise issue. So let's get started, Mary. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Trish, and thank you all for joining us for today's event, Quiet Streets, Lead by Example in Naples, Florida. Our focus this afternoon is on the issue of loud modified vehicle exhaust systems. Some of you may have been with us last year for the QC Close-Up event on the topic, but I just want to give you a quick snapshot of how we started this movement in our community and then share where we are. The hope is that you can replicate some of these actions in your own communities. 4 years ago, I launched Quiet Florida in response to growing concerns about loud modified exhaust and low-flying aircraft disrupting our communities. What began as a local effort quickly evolved into a broader public health mission, one focused on protecting well-being and safety of our residents. With the direction and support of my commissioner, Bert Saunders, and Trinity Scott, we formed the Southwest Florida Noise Task Force. It's now a coalition that includes city and county law enforcement, transportation officials, county commissioner, and Quiet Florida. Together, we've taken some bold steps. We've sent out letters to garages and auto body shops to raise awareness and encourage compliance. We've conducted a media blitz across television and social media platforms to educate the public. And we've advocated for revisions to Florida's modified muffler statute to strengthen enforcement with the use of plainly audible and for the use of noise cameras. Quiet Florida has also been speaking with several noise companies throughout the country, discussing cost and their operational process. Our next chapter includes continued efforts to revise the modified muffler statute. And I'm also excited to share that we're very close to launching a noise camera pilot program on Fifth Avenue in downtown Naples. It's a major milestone that could serve as a model for other communities. So yes, we have come a long way, and today's Zoom is about sharing updates, gathering input, and continuing to build momentum. I'm thrilled to be joined by our distinguished panelists who bring expertise, insight, and lived experience to this conversation. We're honored to spotlight two key leaders whose expertise and dedication have shaped our progress. Trinity Scott, Department Head of Transportation Management for Collier County, has been the backbone of our task force. Her leadership, insight, and unwavering support have guided us every step of the way, and we truly would not be where we are today without her. Anthony Khawaja is Director of Traffic Operations and Planning for Collier County. He will share his perspective on how modified muffler issues affect our community roads and neighborhoods and offer insights into potential solutions and strategies for improvement. A reminder, if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A. So now I will pass it over to Trinity Scott. Thank you, Trinity.
Thank you, Mary. So as Mary mentioned, my name is Trinity Scott, and I serve as the department head for Collier County's Transportation Management Services. Our department oversees a wide range portfolio from planning, design, construction, and maintenance of transportation infrastructure to the management of airports and pollution control and beach renourishment. It's a comprehensive mission grounded in long-term sustainability, public safety, and improving the quality of life for the residents and visitors of Collier County. When I first joined the Southwest Florida Noise Task Force, I served primarily in a staff liaison role, coordinating between departments, ensuring technical alignment, and helping facilitate interagency collaboration. But as this issue has grown, both in complexity and urgency, my role has evolved into something more strategic. And today I'm actively involved in identifying practical solutions and supporting regional collaboration to address a growing community concern: excessive vehicle noise from modified exhaust systems. There is increasing interest in the use of noise camera technology, systems capable of detecting sound levels and capturing visual evidence tied to specific vehicles. These systems hold potential for enforcement. We're still in a phase of learning and evaluating, and as Mary discussed, potentially having a pilot very close to home for us. We're watching pilot programs in other jurisdictions very closely and asking the right questions. How accurate is the technology? How will it integrate into local enforcement? And most importantly, will it work for our community across Collier County? One of our challenges that we face is the ongoing willingness of local vehicle service stations to perform illegal muffler modifications, even though they know that these modifications violate our state statute. But we know as long as customers are willing to pay, some of these shops will continue the practice, undermining our enforcement efforts and contributing directly to the very problem that we're trying to solve. That said, not everything has been a challenge. There have been very positive surprises along the way. I've been genuinely encouraged by the depth of collaboration that we've seen across our stakeholders, from law enforcement and public health professionals to transportation agencies and everyday citizens. The passion in this community is real, and I want to highlight the active involvement of the Collier County Sheriff's Office, whose commitment to this issue has been critical. Still, what we've learned is that noise is complex to quantify and even more complex to regulate. If your community is seeing an increase in complaints about vehicle noise, my advice is simple: don't wait for it to become a crisis. Start by collecting data, find your local champions. For us, the tenacity of Mary Tatigian, the leadership of Commissioner Burt Saunders, and the dedication of our partners at the Sheriff's Office have been absolutely essential for us to move the needle on this. And finally, you have to work across silos, because real progress only happens when we all come together around a shared goal. The path forward hasn't been easy for us. It's been frustrating at times, but it requires innovation, patience, and strong partnerships. But we've stayed focused, engaged, and collaborative, and that's why we've been able to make so many positive strides. And what I would like to do now is turn it over to Anthony Khawaja.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Khawaja. I'm the Director of Traffic Operations and Planning. Been working closely with the South Florida Noise Task Force since its start a few years ago. We've been looking for solutions to taper down the noise in this area. Of course, there's a lot of issues that roadway speeds, congestion. We looked at multiple solutions. We tried to study some of the other agencies that implemented these kind of solutions. We looked at this Miami Beach area, what they did before. We looked at Knoxville. We looked at New York City, London. There was a few pilot studies in California. We actually invited one of the vendors here to SoundView, a British company that does noise cameras and noise enforcement. He came in, and Mary and us met with him. He did a presentation and gave us some proposal. Some of the limitation of their software at the time was still having a difficult time of enforcing multiple lanes of traffic. They were very good in enforcing a single lane roadway, but difficult to enforce multiple lane to pick a vehicle out of a 3-lane roadway. And most of our arterials are 6-lane roadways. They are wide, and when you're approaching the signal, it's important to identify the actual vehicle rather than just that there is a noise that occurred, to be able to identify which one. They were very good if it was a single lane roadway, to be able to pick up the noise, identify the decibel of that vehicle, and be able to identify the license plate and issue a citation if that's the route it was taken. So at the time, it was difficult to implement, but I'm glad to hear that Mary's working with the city of Naples on implementing a camera, a noise camera on Fifth Avenue. We'll be monitoring that to see how that would work. My job also, I'm the traffic engineer, so I take a lot of I do most of the signal timing, most of the signal innovations. We monitor all our intersections. We have cameras at almost all our signalized intersections. So we try to keep an eye on things. We work with the sheriff closely. Like Trinity and Mary said, it's noise enforcement is somewhat difficult. I mean, I was talking to the sheriff the other day. He said he picked up a vehicle that the noise of the muffler was so loud that he issued them a citation. But when he went in front of the judge, the judge asked him, was this muffler modified? And he said, that it was not, that this was a sport vehicle, that they have a sport mode on the vehicle. And it's by the manufacturer, the noise was high, and the judge ended up throwing the ticket out of court. So we have a lot of people to educate, and including our judges and our laws, and to get acceptance of these laws so we can enforce them better. But that doesn't mean we should stop fighting for this and try to improve the quality of life in Collier County and across the country, actually. I mean, we don't want noise to be a major issue. We need to curve it down and keep it within limits. That's very much what I needed to say.
Yeah.
Mary, I hand it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Trish, is there, I know we
Yes.
probably have a lot of questions in the chat that will start.
They're starting to build. So I think a good question to start with is about the data collection. And Trinity, I think it was you who shared that was one of the first steps, but if you or whoever's appropriate would chime in. It's a two-part question. What's your suggestion for the first step of collecting data? And then what types of data are being collected?
So for us, I think we have a very robust citizen-based system where citizens can, I don't want to say lodge complaints, but they can let us know when there's an issue in the community. So being able to collect that information, if residents were calling in saying, we're hearing street racing, we're hearing these modified mufflers going pop, 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 we could pinpoint that down to certain areas based on what information they gave us. We have a robust data collection system. We call it our 311 system. Folks can call 311, they go in through an app. So then we could do kind of heat maps around the county to know where were we getting these type of complaints. Then we were able to work with the sheriff's department to work with them to do targeted enforcement. So when we were getting this feedback in from the residents, dates and times, were you hearing it on a regular basis? Were you hearing it typically every Saturday, every other Saturday? That allows us to then target our enforcement to a specific time frame. Obviously, the sheriff doesn't have time to have somebody sit out there all the time, but if we could get it down to it's a Saturday night between 1 and 2 in the morning, okay, well, we started doing targeted enforcement, and then being able to collect information about how many tickets that they were doing. We were also monitoring social media, knowing when they were going to be doing these kind of meetups and things like that. That was all great information that then we could collaborate with our sheriff's department to do that targeted enforcement.
That's great. Does anyone have anything to add?
Data collection, and that's why I've pushed for noise cameras for 4 years. With the noise cameras, we lighten the load with law enforcement. It's a camera doing all the work. Snapshot, they take the picture of the license and the decibel reading of the muffler. That data is collected at a law enforcement office, and then the technology is there where it then can be, a citation can then be mailed to that individual. It saves so many man hours. You don't need as much law enforcement. It's just very difficult. Well, we're getting there, but because many cities have noise cameras now, to get people, local politicians, state politicians on board, but we are getting there.
Thanks, Mary. And here's a question that we received before the event in an email. And the question is, why not just ban these loud mufflers? And Trinity, I'll toss that to you.
Well, and as I noted in our opening remarks, in our state statute currently, it is illegal to modify mufflers to where they're out of compliance. And so we effectively already, quote unquote, have a ban in the state of Florida, but it doesn't stop someone from doing it in their home garage or finding a service area if that's what their desire to do is. So when our law enforcement, obviously when they identify them, they do ticket them. I know that in coordination with our law enforcement, they've been working with the judges that obviously the vehicle has to be brought back into compliance. So that's one way of hopefully helping. But yeah, we already have the ban here, and if someone wants to do it, they're just going ahead and doing it.
So it's about enforcement. And Anthony, do you want to pop up on the screen the sign that you have posted in your area for ticketing? And perhaps we can also pop that in the chat, or we can attach it to an email after this event.
Yes, yes. This is actually a flyer.
It hasn't come in yet.
That's higher than the original. The first offense is $315 here in Florida.
I think you need to double click to show it, or we're not quite seeing it. There you go.
There
Oh,
it
you
is.
see it or no?
Yep,
Yes.
we got it.
Okay, so are you able to put that in the chat, Anthony, or you can just email it
to notify
Rachel?
them.
Yes, that would be great. Quiet Communities has shared that in the past, but I think it's a nice tool, and communities can perhaps interpret that approach. So here's a question. Vehicle noise in Providence and throughout Rhode Island is primarily from motorcycles, specifically Japanese sport motorcycles. Are the strategies the same for motorcycles and modified mufflers on vehicles?
As far as I know, yes. I do know on the mufflers of motorcycles, there is a tag printed or attached to which states that it's original. So it's easier for law enforcement to see. It's very difficult for law enforcement to see some of the modifications, but some are very apparent and the noise is very apparent. But as far as I know, all 50 states have a modified muffler statute. Ours was written in 1979, so it needs revision. And that's why I stated that we start upstream. This would be much easier to enforce if the law was written well, if the verbiage was clearly stated, and the use of noise cameras could solve a lot of these problems for people. So it's a matter of pushing the politicians to get this done.
And do you foresee or have ambitions to make this sort of a federal policy? Someone's referring to the fact that, municipalities are trying to tackle this issue. town by town, city by city, but, then I-95 runs through, through many states. And so I guess do you have aspirations for some kind of larger policy, or do you have your hands full enough in Collier County?
Yeah, we we do have our hands full, but that is a great aspiration, because where it starts is we need to be speaking with car manufacturers because of the sport modes and the track modes that you can just slip a button and your engine is louder. So that is original equipment manufacturing, and that is a problem. That is not a typical modification. So what I'd like to see again with the revision to the statutes is that it says loud, excessively loud muffler vehicle noise, as well as modified. So if we can get to that place, that would be great. But it's very busy trying to get to where we need to be.
Here is a question for Anthony. My condo backs onto Tarpon Bay Boulevard in North Naples. What was once a limited use lane to our association has had traffic routed to it to ease access to Immokalee Road and I-75. Vehicles of all types drive 50 feet from my home. Any thoughts on use of noise cameras in this environment? And Anthony, maybe you could start with a response.
Yes, thank you, Trish. I agree. I think Turban Bay Boulevard is carries a little more traffic than it's maybe originally intended. A lot of the people who are on Oaks Boulevard that are trying to get to I-75 usually utilize that roadway to get to I-75 ramps. Right now, cameras are not approved or not installed in Collier County yet. We're still evaluating the process. It could be one of the candidates if noise cameras become to be an item to use. So we'll be watching, like I said, what Fifth Avenue is doing and how the results come out. And at least that section, I think, is a single lane in that area. I'm not positive. So like that kind of roadway is doable. One option also for the community to put noise walls if possible. I don't know if he reached out to his HOA to see if noise walls are a reasonable solution for his community, especially by the area where it's really close to Tiburon Bay Boulevard. I mean, I know these guys are between Tiburon and I-75, so the other side also is maybe noisy from I-75 traffic, but it is carrying a little more. And we'll be watching. At this time, I would say we have not implemented any noise cameras yet, and we will continue to monitor the use.
Thank you. An interesting comment from someone who's a car enthusiast, and he's just making a note that not all of the noise, and this is helpful for me because I attribute all of the loud noise I hear as being from a modified muffler, but he's explaining that some of the cause of that loud caustic popping that traumatizes, it's like gunfire. It's traumatic for humans and pets. He's noting that comes from unburned fuel that explodes in the combustion chamber when the throttle is released. So I think that's really helpful to understand as sort of a parallel problem. I don't know if anyone has a response to that, but an interesting comment.
No, he's absolutely correct. A lot of people call it backfire, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of these cars, they can resolve these issues if they want to. I mean, they do that, so it's a unique sound and the vehicle is noticeable.
Yeah, I agree. Doesn't have to be.
And this comment has to do with the future and the plan that by 2035, maybe there will not be use of internal combustion engines and we'll be shifting to electric, which will sort of alleviate the loud sound. Can anyone speak to that goal and whether that seems to be within reach? We might have to go to another, an outside expert for a response, but please comment.
What I've heard, and that's great. What I've also heard is from law enforcement is that they're actually, the enthusiasts are actually using a computer chip of some sort on their electric vehicles to produce that noise. So it's a very difficult thing. They just like to make noise, which I understand a hobby's a hobby, but respect for your neighbors has to come into play here. But yeah, so unfortunately, with an electric vehicle, the way I understand it is they can use a computer in the car to produce these sounds, even though that's not a combustion engine.
The other thing I would add is that even if that's where you went for new vehicles, is that you're still going to have a lot of existing vehicles on the roadway. I mean, I know I'm guilty myself. I still have a 1965 Mustang sitting in my garage. So you will always have, it will take a lot of time to phase out all of those older vehicles as well. So it's not just that at 2035, that's a magic date. Certainly that could assist, but it doesn't mean that the problem goes away that date.
That's helpful. And Mary, how much, or one of you, how much are the cameras that you're looking at for the pilot?
Well, the cost will vary from a couple of the companies I have spoken with. There's a cost for the camera, a cost for the installation, a cost for monitoring, a cost, to check on it, monitor it, however they do it long distance, a lot of times with the computers. But it depends. The proposal that came in initially from a company for downtown Naples, I can go by that, was 4 cameras. And it was a program for 6 months, and it was going to be $150,000. So if you just wanted to go with 1 camera, I suppose you could and cut it back, but this was for 4 cameras. So for me, I think that's feasible. It can be done.
And we can share details as that pilot develops too,
Sure.
So for many drivers of purposely loud vehicles, part of the enjoyment is the evasion of and the conflict with law enforcement. What are some of the ways that this is being addressed? We talked a little bit about that in our first event, but does anyone have insight? Trinity, do you on that one?
Well, I think with us, at least here in Collier County, with the increased law enforcement presence and the specific training that our law enforcement is getting, and because it's such a notable thing with our sheriff's department, they're really taking the training seriously, and I think also the increase of the fine over time. So, for us, it's about. I understand sometimes folks, they like that thrill and all of that, but when you start hitting them in the pocketbook, I think that was where we ultimately got to in 2021 with increasing our fines.
Thank you. And what has the response been in Naples to this effort? Are you getting a mixed response? And, speak to just the general program, of trying to address this issue. And then also from a budgeting standpoint, when you're talking about investing in noise cameras, is there pushback on that front?
Yeah. So the pushback, well, I have received positive and negative. I have a Facebook page at Nextdoor, which I took to private just to, keep the harassment out. I'm very willing to have a civil conversation with someone, but people want to do what they want to do. And I always say to them, it's illegal, plus you're harming people. But yeah, it's a mixed, but most of the people that I deal with are so happy that we're trying to do something because they're suffering. And we do know noise pollution and air pollution from the modified exhaust does harm people. So that's what our focus on is. We're on the side of right here, that people shouldn't be harmed in their own homes. So, but we are getting pushback.
And Trinity, is that your experience? We had a discussion about land care, and one of the community leaders said he was so hard. People, once they were banned and it was quiet, people were actually really happy. So you haven't quite gotten to that point yet, but I wonder what kind of feedback you receive.
I would say it's the same as what Mary's experiencing. I mean, we get it's with every good, you may get a bad with it. I would think I would say that cameras at any level have been can be a very polarizing topic. Tony has dealt with them. We previously had red light cameras, and then we removed red light cameras. We're starting to see the introduction of speed cameras, at least in our neighboring communities, for school zones and things like that. And so the thought of the technology part of it is a very polarizing topic for some. And it brings about a lot of other, questions about, privacy and all of that. So, like I said, I think that you get the folks who are, particularly those that live up close to the roadways where they're experiencing this, more so than folks who live away from those major roadways, and they're looking for relief. But then you definitely have the folks who have other concerns as well.
It's important to note that the noise cameras that you're looking at, as I understand it, blur people's faces and voices that they don't capture personal information. They just
not all of them do.
Yes,
but the group that I'm working with now for down in Fifth Avenue, they do. And that was the capabilities I was looking for, because just what Trinity said, I received pushback from law enforcement stating, this is what you're going to get, Mary. They're not going to want it because they're going to see their face and they're going to hear their conversation. The company that I'm working with has solved that issue. So
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so this is a fairly, Naples and Collier County, fairly densely populated. Do you have suggestions for a more rural area where, the noise may be sporadic, which, as we know, can be just as disturbing because it's quiet and then loud, and, there are different characteristics of noise. But any recommendations for an area like that?
So the unique thing about Collier County is about half of our county is very urban and the other half of our county is very rural.
Okay.
So with large estate size lots and things of that nature. So we actually are applying the same methodologies, urban and rural area. So our law enforcement is still key partners with us, and so on and so forth. So we kind of have that unique ability here where we're both.
That's
I just want to, yes, I agree. I think the key item is make sure that your police department, your sheriff office is on board and willing to go after these offenders. So some of the noise is natural noise. I mean, if you have heavy truck traffic, if you have a quarry nearby, these vehicles are going to make noise, and it's it's illegal. They are allowed to be on the roadway. They are allowed to, as long as it's reasonable. You don't want them jailbreaking and stuff like that, but normal noise is legal and acceptable. So you need to be thinking, is this normal or this is above and beyond? And what we can prevent, or what you want to try to prevent, is what's above and beyond.
Yeah, you need to familiarize yourself with your modified muffler state statute or ordinance, whatever, or law, whatever your state calls it. But that would let you know what they can and can't enforce. And like I had said, ours needs revision. It's very difficult to enforce. We need to make it easier for law enforcement to do their job. So that's in progress. I have spoken with the Florida legislative delegation twice, and our commissioner, Bert Saunders, has gone up to Tallahassee and requested that somebody pick this up and revise the statute. It's politicians work very slow, or government works very so nothing. We're not giving up. We've requested it, and we don't think it's a big ask. And it can be done, and it would solve a lot of issues for a lot of people if we could do it. So, but we're hoping for this pilot program will collect the data, and then we can present it to City Council or the county Collier commissioners and say, look what they're picking up. We need to be able to use these cameras to enforce the law. So a work in progress, but we're getting close with a few things. You have to be persistent. You have to be persistent.
I agree. I think you need a champion, and you need somebody like Mary on your side. No, I mean, you definitely have to give you the credit for getting so far here. And I mean, she knows how to deal with the politicians. She knows how to deal with the engineers and the people who do the work, and she works hard, and she stays connected. And you need a champion, and I think that's where you need to start.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know Mary also can't say enough about the leadership in your community, and how, once she identified Bert and, all of you, Trinity and Anthony, and the police sergeant, that's when things really started to happen, because you have allies in places, as Trinity, as you spoke to, there are some really good people who are invested in the issue. Have any of you heard, this is someone who's in California and is talking about the problem of noise on multi-lane highways, and there are flock cameras, and he's wondering if they could be fitted with decibel sensors. That may be an answer we have to get from someone else, but does anyone know the answer?
I'm not sure what a flock camera.
Yes,
is that what we're saying?
It must capture the whole scene, across.
Yeah.
It's a brand.
Okay.
He needs to contact them or look at their website if they do noise detection as well. A lot of these camera manufacturers do provide noise detection. They might have to add a mic to the camera, that it might not come with a mic.
Okay.
A mic could be added to some of those to be able to detect noise. The thing is, that doesn't mean that would make them enforcement cameras. That will just make them capable of detecting noise.
Yeah, noise cameras. Noise cameras can be calibrated. So you don't want to pick up every noise that's 45 decibels or 60 decibels. Some cities set the calibration for, say, 85 decibels. So 85 and above are going to get a ticket. Those might be the worst of the worst. So, everyone below that, you're not going to pick up. And those are specific. Noise cameras are very specific, and way above my pay grade. But the technology is amazing. Mm-hmm. That's all I can really say about that, but that it's definitely specific to noise.
And it's quickly evolving. I mean,
yes,
our experience.
Yep.
So
very much so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony, did you have another comment?
I was going to say, I think our sheriff uses black cameras for license plate readers, but not for me.
Okay. Someone points to, this is per our conversation about, pushback, but there is an organization, I'm aware of it, and just wants to make sure that others are aware of SEMA, SEMA, that lobbies to protect the auto aftermarket. So it's just always good to understand, some of the other forces out there that we need to convince to come along on this ride. I'm being optimistic.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like there are two issues: modified mufflers and mufflers manufactured to make excessive noise. Can someone indicate the exact terms of the existing state statute and what is proposed to improve it? So if you were to amend your noise ordinance, is there language that you would add?
Presently, Quiet Florida asked for plainly audible. Plainly audible is a statute that we have already in Florida for car stereos or loud noise of a different sort coming from a vehicle. If a police officer is 25 feet away and can hear your car stereo, you can get a ticket. We've asked for that to be added to the statute, the revision, and the use of noise cameras. Is that what he was asking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, OEM is original equipment manufacturers, and that's what Anthony stated too, I believe. Cars can come loud, like your Ferraris, your Porsches, and that. We haven't got there yet, but car manufacturers should be aware this is illegal. So in their booklet, that when they sell you your Porsche, you can go into that booklet and open it up and says, by the way, the state you live in may have a modified muffler or a loud, muffler statute. So you must be aware of it. So that's how they're getting away with it now, to my understanding.
So this person is just noting that two of the panelists said that it's important to start addressing the issue before before the tipping point. Well, what is the tipping point? Someone is asking. Is it the fact that people sort of begin to get used to the noise, or for Naples and Collier County, what was the tipping point?
Well, for me, it was personal. So I thought, well, let me start by getting on Nextdoor and Facebook and asking people, are you noticing this? So that's where it started, was a grassroots coalition where other people were affected, and of course my neighbors. And that's where we started. And then my next step was going to visit Commissioner Saunders after that. But yeah, it was, we definitely, phoned the law enforcement, but law enforcement is overwhelmed. They're short-staffed, and a law enforcement officer has to chase this car down through traffic and then pull them over on the side of the road where possibly there's 3 lanes on one side, 3 lanes on the other. It's a difficult task. Again, I've said it before, but the statute needs to be revised to make it easier for our law enforcement to do their job.
And this person is asking, where there are tolls or bridges and there are already cameras set up, would it make sense to add additional capabilities to monitor noise there? Would that be an option? I'm not sure if you have toll areas in Collier County.
Trinity, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, we only have one toll area in Collier County and once again, it comes back to what Anthony talked about at the beginning, is that currently our statute doesn't allow for the noise cameras for the actual enforcement part of it. You can do a noise camera to collect information, but right now we're not able to actually issue a citation from those noise cameras. So that's a change in our state statute that would have to be allowed. They are being piloted in some areas, but certainly being able to place them in areas where you already have infrastructure. So if you already have, for us, we have traffic signal cameras that we don't record, but we utilize them to monitor our traffic flow. So you know that you have the infrastructure in place there. For us, it's our fiber network, electric, and so on and so forth. So being able to co-locate those type of things certainly makes some sense, but you also have to think about where they're at. You know, placing them at a red light may or may not be the best place. That would be where you would want to work with your vehicle manufacturer to know they're going to give you some ideas about the best place to be able to put them, to be able to collect the right information.
Great. That's very helpful. Thank you. I'm just looking at a question from outside. Someone notes that this is definitely a federal problem, and quiet communities could not agree more. And, you know, in a sense, we feel with our nationwide work, we are trying to fill the void left when funding was canceled for the noise abatement work that the Environmental Protection Agency did. So I acknowledge your query and follow our work. We're really, you know, working on raising awareness and making headway, but it's a Herculean task. It's a lot of work. So we appreciate your support. I've noticed that if not most car commercials, even those for electric cars, seem to include illegally modified noise to make their cars sound amazing. I doubt much can be done, but any thoughts about this? Is there any way to kind of address the problem, you know, pre-market, during the market? You know, I think that's perhaps a question, you know, for our broader organization, but if anyone has comment, please chime in.
Yeah, I agree, Trish. That's going after the car manufacturers, basically. Yes. So that's going to take lawyers, but Quiet Communities is a fantastic organization, and you know, with our programs that we have, you know, and our scientific advisory board and our legal board, you know, but these are things to think about, to consider. I just ask everyone to make sure you make this problem known. Don't rely on others. You have to make this problem known. You have to let your, when I post in my Facebook, I make sure I post the senators to reach out to the city council, Collier County commissioners. I put all their emails in there. You've got to let people know this is a problem. If they don't hear from you, it's not a problem.
Thank you, Mary. That's very helpful.
I was going to say the same thing also. Let me add to that, Trish. It's like any change that we require. It's important to have support and have enough people to care. So the issue needs more attention from multiple people, from the car manufacturer. I mean, this is almost like you can think of it as when seatbelts became to be a law. They weren't. No, everybody drove without a seatbelt, and I know it's a safety issue versus a noise, but it's also important that it took a long time before it was required by the federal government and the safety board to require all car manufacturers that, hey, you have to have a seatbelt. It could be done that someday your car cannot exceed a certain decibel point.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be great?
So it could be engineered, which would be great. This is an interesting question. There's still a persistent belief in the general population that loud pipes save lives. So, for example, loud motorcycle mufflers enable drivers to hear, you know, a vulnerable biker. Do you have comments on that? And is that a fallacy, or is there truth to it?
I can take that question. I
Okay.
used to ride a motorcycle. Definitely having a little bit of noise to let the vehicle around you know that you are there is good to know, good to have. But you don't have to have it so loud that you're waking up the neighbor three houses down the street. You know, there's a happy medium somewhere where you can still stay within the legal limit of the decibel that's required.
That's a very good point. Our nerves don't need to
Yeah.
be shattered, and we don't need to lose our hearing as a result.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to hear it a mile away.
We have an EV expert in our audience, and it would be interesting to hear from him. But I think I'm going to make a note, and in a future discussion, we would love to hear from you, or we'd love to, an email to info@quietcommunities.org would be appreciated, and we can share those facts. Let's see. The problem escalated here in Washington State when they discontinued the state vehicle emissions annual testing. Since that time, the problem has grown, even though new vehicles are quiet. And, that kind of raises the issue too of inspection, the value of inspections, which I live in Massachusetts and we have. And so my muffler is checked and it wouldn't pass inspection if it were modified. Can one of you comment on that, Trinity or Anthony, perhaps?
I'll start, Trinity. Yes, definitely. There's some states that do vehicle inspection. Florida is not one of them, and that's not done in every state. Florida does not have any vehicle inspection. It's up to the owner to make sure that their vehicle is in a good working condition. But I understand Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, there's many states that do actual inspection on the vehicle annually, and they can not pass a vehicle if certain things don't work properly or have been modified. Good for those states. For the rest of us, I think maybe law enforcement is the way.
Right. And that I was just gonna tag onto that, with it being, with the fact that we don't have a required, it would be a legislative change for us, as well as all those other states that don't have that. And that's where it's sometimes difficult of, we're trying to do things here in Collier County, and then having those, also trying to work the our statewide front as well. So, that would be a statewide decision for us.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Regarding noise cameras, this person has a sense that they're often they have a hard time reading the license plate of motorcycles, have you looked into that, Mary, as you've sort of assessed what noise camera company you'd like to use?
I haven't heard that. I've spoken with three, but what I have heard from law enforcement, what happens here in Naples anyways, probably happens elsewhere. People that ride motorcycles, their license plate is on like a spring or a hinge. And when they see they're going to be pulled over, they'll flip that over and escape. And half the time they aren't caught. So, but I haven't heard from the manufacturers of the cameras anything that they've heard about the inability to capture license plates from motorcycles, but it's definitely smaller. So I could see that would be, and they do cover them up. So
in addition to the flyer that you showed earlier, highlighting the fines, what other public awareness campaign has happened? How are you bringing the rest of the public along on this issue?
Well, as I was stating earlier, we did a media blitz, social media, TV, commercials. social media was great to get out, but you do get the harassment when you start, a little bit of harassment with that. But Trinity was, maybe you can speak to that. You were, your department was in charge of sending out the letters, correct? With the flyer and a letter from the sheriff, I believe.
Correct. So one of the things that we did as far as educating the service stations or the vehicle automobile places, because pollution control falls under me, we were able, we have a regulation here that requires that different businesses that you don't have to utilize different types of fuel and oil and all of that, they have to register with us. So we had a list of at least automobile service companies here in town. And so we were able to create a list. We worked with our local sheriff's department to have a letter signed by our sheriff that went with each of the flyers that we that Anthony brought up earlier. We sent them copies of the flyers, asked them to please post those within their area, also noting to them in this letter from the sheriff that it was illegal for them to modify to actually do the modifications as well, and that you know, that was also part of our you know, could be part of the enforcement side of it. The other thing, it sounds so trivial and whatever, we worked with the sheriff to be able to utilize their envelopes, thinking that if someone got an envelope in the mail that said the Collier County Sheriff's Office, that they would be less apt to throw it in the trash. So that, you know, that it didn't look like it was, you know, just anything coming. So we worked with the sheriff. We were able to utilize their envelope, so their seal was on the outside of it. The letter was from the sheriff on his letterhead along with our flyers. So that's one of the ways that we've been able to do it. And then as Mary talked about, we had like a media day, if you will. And then we also worked to have regularly scheduled social media from not only Collier County or from Mary with her pages that she operates as well, but also working with our Florida Highway Patrol, our Sheriff's Office, our local police departments as well. So folks were kind of getting inundated by a lot of different fronts.
Thank you, Trinity. And Mary, we know you can't endorse the noise camera companies, but could you share the names of maybe the 3 or 4 that you've been looking at? And I'll say that Quiet Communities is considering ways we can, you know, host conversations with noise camera companies so that communities can ask their own questions and decide what works best for them.
Sure. So Citharon is in Washington State. Not a loud, not -a-loud, not allowed is in New Mexico, and Soundview is from the United Kingdom. And Soundview and Citharon are in many cities right now. So they're being used in some cities, some just as pilot programs, some in New York City, I believe the EPA works with them to collect the data and ticket, and their fines are quite high. But of course, they have a lot more people and a lot more vehicles. So, but those are the 3 companies that I'm aware of, and there may be more. We're always trying to reach out and to see. I spoke with a company called Noise Net, I believe was his, and he was in Australia. So we're going to be setting up a conversation with him. But those are the companies, and you can Google them and you can see lots of information, and they're great. They're quick at getting back to you if you had any questions.
And we'll revisit Naples, and you know, as the pilot takes shape, I think it would be really interesting to kind of hear what once you make your decisions, what your experience is like. So I'm afraid we've reached the hour mark, and there are still so many good questions to ask. You can always reach out to us at info@quietcommunities.org with questions. And we will certainly comb through these, and where we can, we'll try to provide answers. But we thank you so much for joining us, Mary, as the host, and Trinity and Anthony, and
Yes, thank
Bert
you.
Saunders too, who I know is in the background and would like to be here. And thanks to all of you for joining us. We hope to see you here again very soon. Thank you. Good night. Quiet Communities.